Eros Meets Agape is a bi-weekly heart-to-heart conversation about love, sex, marriage, and relationships. Everyone wants to love and be loved, but everyone does not know how to give and receive the love they both want and need. Intimacy and passion are essential, yet mean nothing if there isn't unconditional and sacrificial love, which is the foundation for any lasting relationship. Dr. Sardia is a licensed marriage and family therapist and minister. Let's listen in as she shares how to create healthier and happier relationships.
Hey there, family. That's right. It's time for another episode of the Eros Meets Agape podcast. And today we are talking about your lovely blessings. That's right. Your mini me. What are we communicating about love with our mini me's? So whether you are raising a son or a daughter, same-sex child or opposite-sex child, depending on who's the primary parent, all of the time that you are with your children, those lovely little blessings, you are teaching them about love in every single thing you do. So we're going to jump into today's episode of the podcast, talking about important things that will be helpful to you, showing your mini me how to give and receive the best love possible. All right, let's head on over into the classroom. I will see you in a second. So, okay, I know you all are probably thinking, wait a minute, Eros Meets Agape, and we're talking about my mini-me? What's going on? I thought we were talking about love. Well, we are. We're just talking about a different kind of love. So what does that really mean? Let's break this down. You all know I talk about attachment inside and out. So I'm coming from that lens. But if you're new to the show, especially with this episode, since we're talking about your lovely blessings, I am going to break it down again, but not be so technical, okay? So when we are looking at love and raising our kids, you have to consider the fact that your child, of course, is a blank palette, right? They come into this world not knowing anything, and they are totally dependent and relying upon you to give them everything that they need. The younger our children are, the more they need from us from a physical sense, but also an emotional aspect in how we're going to parent them as well as raise them, love them, connect with them. The older our children become, then the more we are able to see what we have deposited is coming out and how it's coming out. All right. Now, some of you may be saying to yourself, wait a minute, hold up. Let's take some inventory here, lady. You are not a parent. You do not have children. So how are you going to tell me about my kids? So I used to get this question in a different way when I was counseling, because people would say, she's not married. How is she going to help us in our relationship and our marriage? Well, guess what? That's the awesome thing about counseling. When you have extensive knowledge on something, you become a subject matter expert on that specific thing. So if you consider all the knowledge that exists in the world, I don't have any inkling as to all the things that are happening with life, love, and relationships as far as the world is concerned. But when it comes to knowing one thing very well, I know attachment. Because I spent a lot of years learning that, studying that, as well as studying counseling and all the theories that go along with that, I hung out in this area of love, sex, marriage, and relationships. So that's the one thing I know well. There are a lot of other things when it comes to counseling, I admit I have no knowledge of. I cannot help you there, but that's okay because I have a general knowledge, not a specific knowledge. So earlier when I was counseling, people say, well, how can you help me? And you're not married. How can you help me in my marriage? I would always give them this example, which I will apply here, but in a different facet. So I would always say, okay, look, if you were unfortunately dying of cancer and your best friend had the exact same type of cancer as you, caught it at the exact same time, and has given you information as well as, about themselves and how they walk through this process and how they are totally set free and delivered from cancer. Do you want that information from your best friend because you know they love you and they're going to give you all the inside out tips, tools, resources? They're going to help you and walk you through. Do you want that information from them? Or do you want an oncologist, which is a doctor of cancer? their job for the past 15 years has been studying medicine in the body, and then they took a specialization within the field of oncology, and that's all that they study. Sure, do they know everything about, medicine? Yes. Do they know it in depth? No, because they chose to learn about cancer in depth. So whenever I ask people that question, who do they want to walk them through this process? They say hands down, the oncologist, and look at me like I'm crazy. And I say, well, guess what? That person is trained, and that's why you chose them, right? Not the best friend who just knows something. It's the same concept when it comes to relationship. My best friend could have a lot of information about relationship, but that's her relationship. That's her husband. Those are entirely two different people. Therefore, what works there may not work with me and my partner, right? So when we ask people to give us insight, and they're giving us insight from their experience, sure, they can get some things right and totally make sense because it is their experience. And there's nothing wrong with sharing how you have overcome from your experience. That's your testimony, right? But when it comes to education on a more specific and deeper and intricate level, then we need to move beyond personal experience and use professional and educational knowledge as well as experience. So that being said, everyone would always say, well, I'm going to choose the oncologist. And I would always say, well, guess what? I spent 2 years in a master's program learning about couples and families. And then I spent 4 years in a doctoral program honing in on couples, families, and love, and then wrote a dissertation, which is a book on love and families. So that means I've read a whole bunch about this subject, so I know a lot about it. Okay. But of course, we're going to throw some extra in there, which is information from a personal vantage point. So how does that have to relate to what I know about kids when I don't have any? Guess what? Attachment doesn't care how old you are. The theory works with regard to age, ethnicity, gender, doesn't matter. When we're looking at attachment, we're looking at love, right? It's the reason why I talk about attachment so much, because at the end of the day, I'm talking about love. And it's just a matter of who am I having that conversation with? Is it with you based on your relationship with your partner? Well, wait a minute. It could be from a different angle, such as maybe you and your relationship with your parent or your relationship with your child. So today, while we're talking about parenting our mini me's, we are teaching how to love healthily, regardless who we are, regardless of who we are interacting with. We should always be coming from a place of healthiness. And that means if I am educating a friend, I'm going to tell my friend good information because I want them to have healthy love. But I would also do the same in parenting that to a child. Okay. So let me give you a good example. I see a lot of clients that have had issues with their parents, either an absentee dad, therefore they have daddy issues, or maybe a single mom who maybe was a little bit overbearing and or maybe a helicopter mom, and that has caused problems in that relationship with their child and between the mother and the child, right? What does that boil down to? It boils down to attachment. So let me kind of get into it because you're probably like, where are we going with this? She keeps talking about that, but she hasn't said anything. Let me just dive right in. All right. So let me go back to educating for the new listeners. Attachment is with us from the cradle to the grave. It is a lovely gift that we get from our primary caregiver. For most people, a primary caregiver is the main person that raised you. So if we're looking at your early childhood years, not formative per se, but your early childhood years, meaning the first 2.5 to 3 years of your life, whoever was that individual who was feeding you, bathing you, clothing you, taking care of small necessities, communicating with you, playing with you, teaching you things, whoever was that main individual, that would be the primary caregiver. Now, some people are like, well, wait a minute, hold up. I grew up in a 2-parent household, or I grew up in a household with my grandmother or my aunts. It doesn't matter. It's the individual who did the most of those things. Now, you might say, well, it was about even. No. Because if you think about it, as a child, you're going to go to one person more than the other. Now, why? It's not going to be because your primary caregiver or family members or parents sat you down and said, baby, I want you to know that I'm here for these things, but maybe daddy or mommy are going to be with you for these things. We don't do that with our kids, right? We don't give them those kind of rules, but because they're so wise, they pick up on these things, right? So think about it from this vantage point. For those of you that are parents, think about this. Every mom that I know, and if this is you, just see if this is applicable. Every mom that I know will have their child run past dad who's laying on the couch watching the news or watching a game, and they will run past daddy and come right up to mommy who is probably, maybe, let's just say, taking a nap or working on something and say, Mom, I'm hungry. Can you give me such and such? Or Mom, I have to go get such and such from the store for class tomorrow. Well, wait a minute. Daddy was laying on the couch and he wasn't doing anything significant, either resting or enjoying himself, relaxing. Mom is either getting rest or working. Why did you pass by the individual who wasn't doing really anything and head towards the person who is doing something? It's because of attachment. It means that I am relying upon you. I am so accustomed to relying upon you that it does not dawn on me to go to this other person. Sure, I know that there is this other person that's in my household. If you grew up in a two-parent household, sure, you may know that that person is there or not, depending on how they are. But at the end of the day, you have learned based on attachment parenting who is the person that is there for you, okay? So if you grew up in a two-parent household between the ages of birth and 3, just think about who was the person that was there the most for you. When you think about significant childhood memories with your primary caregiver interacting with you, who was that individual? Which parent are you thinking about the most? Meaning, which parent do you have the most memories with? Okay. So that's how we kind of narrow it down. Now, if you grew up in a household where there was only one parent, or maybe you grew up with a grandparent or maybe an aunt or uncle or something like that, then it may be a little bit more obvious because it was only that one person. But that's how you're able to break it down if there were multiple people in the household. And let's face it, people of color, we generally tend to live in households with more than one generation. It has nothing to do with finances, just has to mean, I don't say has to mean, but it basically means that we are a collectivist society, meaning not very individualistic. Because we're not individualistic and we are collectivistic, then that means that we tend to do things together, multi-generational, right? We do things through the generations together, okay? So there's nothing wrong with that. All right, so now going back to attachment. Now that we have an idea that attachment is with us from the cradle to the grave, now it is all about what does that really mean? So I told you it was a gift from your primary caregiver. Now it's time to investigate what type of gift is it, okay? Now, when we're looking at this gift, I want you to keep a couple of things in mind. If you have let's just say a good relationship with your parent or maybe not so good relationship with your parent, I want you to think of your attachment relationship with your parent. But if you yourself are a parent now, then I also want you to think of your relationship with your child. This is going to give you 2 different vantage points. It may help you to see why you do things a little bit differently and to figure out, oh, okay, that's why I chose to go this route as opposed to this other thing, okay? So going back to attachment, let's kind of explain what it is. In essence, remember, I indicated that it is a way in which we learn how to give and receive better love. Okay, does that sound familiar, guys? Does it sound familiar? Okay, let me remind you. At the end of every show, I always say, I'm Dr. Sadia, helping you to give and receive the love you both want and need. Okay, that comes from attachment because it's about how we are going to give love to someone, how I'm going to express that and communicate that, show that to you. But as well, I need the other half of that, which means I need to be able to receive love. I need to be able to take that in and be okay with that type of connection and intimacy with someone. But the manner and style in which I am able to do both of those things were first taught to me by my parents. So you all know me. I always talk about myself. So you know that's what I'm going to do. That and my family. But they already know I talk about them and they're like, yeah, whatever. But that's just how I roll. Okay. All right. So for real, going back to what we're talking about. So let's kind of break it down when it comes to attachment. There are two main categories, secure and insecure. And within insecure attachment, there are three different types. So let me explain that first, and then I'll head into secure attachment. So when it comes to insecure attachment, one of the ones, so you're clear, there are different words based on how it's being used, meaning if it's in a layman's terms, or if we are specifically just talking about children, or if we're talking about romantic relationships, the terminology changes. So I'm just going to keep it very basic here and not get very technical. And that way, if I use the same terminology all the time, then you're not confused later on, or if you listen to another episode, okay? So anxious attachment means that as a child, I learned in my household that love was not consistent. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute, love was consistent in my household. But was it? Now, think of it this way. Anxious attachment identifies that there was inconsistency. And the only thing consistent in that child's home growing up when it came to love was inconsistency. And that means I learned, okay, well, this is how we do things here. You get love on Tuesday, but wait a minute, it's missing on Friday. Wait a minute, okay. Oh, I see it again on Sunday. Darn, it's missing again on Wednesday. And that is the cycle. It's there and then it's not there. It's there and then it's not there. Now, there are numerous reasons why a parent would show love on one moment and not show love on another moment. I can give you a number of different examples, and you have to think of the fact that there are multiple things in play. Remember, as a parent, you are gifting your child attachment. Now, that can come as a result of what you learned, therefore you are passing it through to the next generation. Or it could be situational based on what is happening in your world. So for example, a lot of times when I'm working with clients and they're going through a divorce, they will say, I just don't have the energy right now. I just can't really connect with my child. I'm very sad about what I'm dealing with this divorce, and it's hard to really be there for them. Well, unfortunately, that means that you're not being consistent anymore. And love really shouldn't be situational, meaning if I'm happy with daddy or mommy, then I can show love to you. And unfortunately, I have to remind my clients, I know you don't mean it, but you are leaving a lasting imprint. And is this the imprint that you want to leave? So in most cases, because my clients love their children, they're great people, they muster up the courage and the energy to give their child some time. Now, here's the catch. Children aren't watching the clock. They aren't saying, well, wait a minute, before you and daddy or mommy got a divorce, you spent 3 hours a night with me. Now you're only doing 45 minutes. They don't see it like that. They just need good communication while you're still being consistent. So for example, say someone was going through a divorce. Then you could say, well, mommy's a little tired today, so we'll play for a little while and then we'll play again sometime later this week. No promise has been made with regard to what day or how long, but you have indicated that you will come back to it. But you've also explained why you can't. Kid doesn't need to know I'm going through stuff with your daddy and, I want to pop off on him or whatever, or vice versa. They don't need to know that. That's above their pay grade, so to speak. They just need to know why you're not feeling the same, what's going on. And if you just explain it has to do with me, then they won't internalize it as themselves. Okay. And I'm going to come back to that point because kids internalize things as being their fault. If you probably have heard this before, saw it on TV a lot. Mommy and daddy are getting divorced. Wait a minute. Did I do something wrong? Kids automatically assume it is themselves. Now you might say, well, wait a minute. Why do they do that? Okay. So now we're going to go into some psychological jargon. At a certain age, children are what we identify as egocentric. Egocentric just simply means that they have not yet come to a place in their cognitive development where they can see outside of themselves. Therefore, everything seems to be on them or their fault or they made that happen. doesn't mean that they're selfish, so to speak. It just means that they are in the egocentric stage. And then as they age, it progresses, but it goes to a different aspect as they get older. Okay. But that's just a little nugget. Just put that in your pocket. We're going to come back to that in a minute. Okay. So when we're looking at anxious attachment, it means that there's consistency in being inconsistent. So what does that really look like? Again, love is shown, time is spent, communication, all that happened on Tuesday, and then it's absent on Thursday. And remember, it could be based on your attachment style, or it could be based on what you may be going through. Therefore, it's situational, like a divorce. Now, there are some times whereas there are some parents that have been on drugs and they have been situational, meaning when they are high, they're not available, right? Because they're about, I need to float in this high. I don't need to be kicking it with you right now, right? But when they're not high, then they are able to connect and engage until, that drive comes on them again, okay? So those are just a couple of examples. There are a number of things that could be happening behind the scenes. So we're not here for that for this episode. We're focusing on your mini-me's, okay? So that's anxious attachment. Avoidant attachment really says, oh, okay, we don't do emotions here. That's not what we do in this household. Okay, let me take note of that. Let me tuck that in the back of my brain, because I have tried to be emotional and express verbiage that identifies love, as well as show you how to express love with hugs and kisses, but you let me know we don't do that. Okay, I'm not hurting my feelings anymore. I got it. Note taken. All right, noted. Not doing that anymore. And so that person learns how to withhold love. They learn how to not express it verbally or physically, because they learn in the household that's not what we do. When I did it, my feelings were hurt. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do that anymore. All right. So that's pretty much it when it comes to avoidant. All right. The consistency is there is no love expressed. Okay. Now, some people may say, well, wait a minute. I have seen that in my household, but it doesn't mean love was expressed. Some people get confused with parent paying the bills or making certain that they were protected. They see that as love, but they had to find it somewhere, right? So I'll give you an example. My mother was not the biggest person growing up giving hugs and I love yous. Now you can't stop her. But growing up, that was not the case. But there was no way you could not have told me that my mother did not love me. I knew that without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, even to this day, I remember I had surgery, y'all. First experience with surgery just a couple of years ago. And I felt like they bamboozled me and they did something else because I was in severe pain. And in the back of my head, yes, at the tender age of, I think I was, 47, in the back of my head, I said to myself, y'all just wait till I tell my mama. Because when I tell my mama, she is going to pop off up here in this hospital and it's going to be on. So I'll be praying for you because you don't want the wrath of Carolyn. Okay. But behind the scenes, I learned that as a child because she was very protective of her children. Not a lot of hugs and kisses, but I knew she loved us, okay? So sometimes when we grow up in an avoidant home and we don't see love such as hugs or kisses, or we don't hear I love yous, then we think that, okay, I'm not going to do this, but it doesn't mean I'm not loved. I just see it a different way. And some people see it in the things that are being done. Now, these individuals will tend to grow up, do very well in school, very well at their jobs, excel at something. Why? Because they figured out the system. They said, oh, okay, I can't get love in this household. But if I excel in this thing that daddy likes basketball, and I excel at basketball, well, okay, daddy is there rooting me on, telling me I'm the best son ever. Or, there's nothing I can't do. Words of affirmation are pumping me up, right? Because we figure out a way to get what it is that we need, okay? And it's usually done by the things that we do. And we should know we don't earn love based on what we do or don't do. Right? We earn love simply because we are ourselves and someone else sees us. And when they see our light shine and they're attracted to that light, then they just start heading towards the light, right? Head towards the light, okay? So if someone sees that, that's great. But if they don't, that's fine too. It just means I'm not for you and that's okay, all right? Now, when we look at the third form of insecure attachment, It's identified as disorganized or fearful. That means I grew up in a household where there was some type of abuse, maltreatment, neglect, or trauma. Because of that, it means that I should trust love from the source from which it comes, but I've learned that the source from which it comes is also the individual that was hurting me or harmful to me. And so therefore they want to trust love, they want to trust themselves, but they don't believe that they can. So they believe as an adult, I can't trust other people because other people have hurt me. But I also can't trust myself because I've tried to do that with people that were close to me and those people took advantage of me. Now that's in the form of abuse, maltreatment, and neglect. Trauma is different. Trauma means that something traumatic has happened that has left an imprint, okay? Now, if you've listened to any of the other episodes, I probably mentioned this a couple of times. My mother, when she was 4, her mother passed away. Well, as a 4-year-old, that's traumatic. That's extremely traumatic. And so because of that, she grew up in a household with her dad and her siblings. So not that nurturing side from mom, that wasn't there. And because it wasn't there, it just meant that she saw love in a different way, which was probably more than likely, I would say about 95% of the reason why as an adult and a mom to me, that nurturing side was not very evident because why? She didn't have that model to her in her childhood. She saw love from daddy's side, so therefore protector, provider, all of that she had down pat. Why? Because she learned it from her dad. Okay, so we have to kind of look at the situations and what's happening to see behind the scenes on what's happening that's giving us a clear indication as to why it's going on now in our lives. We have to look back in the past to see, okay, where did that originate? Okay, so those are the 3 forms of insecure attachment. Now let's get to the good stuff, which is secure attachment. This form of attachment is what we all want to strive for, but here's the catch. If you did not grow up in a household with secure attachment, you cannot have it. But don't fret, don't worry. It doesn't mean that you were doomed for imperfect relationships or unhappiness in love. No, it means that if you do the work, you can acquire what we identify as earned secure attachment. And with this form of attachment, we are saying that we are comfortable verbally expressing love and telling someone you love them, showing them that you love them. You don't care what anybody is seeing, saying, or doing, because at the end of the day, you are like, this is Boo. I love Boo. And I'm okay with showing Boo and telling Boo how I love Boo. But guess what? You learned that from childhood if it was secure attachment because you saw it modeled to you from your primary caregiver, okay? And maybe even between your primary caregiver and, the other parent, okay? So we always want to aim for secure or earn secure attachment. Now, what does that mean when it comes to my mini-me? Now that we lay the foundation to what attachment is, now we have an idea as to what type of attachment is taking place in your parenting with your lovely mini-me, okay? So I want you to go back to those different styles. Secure attachment. Are you available emotionally as well as physically for your child? When baby girl comes running to you and is troubled, are you giving baby girl a hug and a kiss and calming baby girl and asking what's going on and then having a conversation to see what's happening? If you're not employing secure attachment, okay? If we're telling baby girl, oh, be quiet, stop crying, you cry too much, or you're okay, or if we're telling, baby boy, you'll be all right, man up, we're not identifying with secure attachment because secure attachment says that I can rely on the person that is my caregiver, knowing that they will be there for me, knowing that this person is available to me when I need them. And when I come, guess what? They are responsive to me. It's like back in the day, I had my little lovely dog, Ladybug, and Ladybug turned into this. She wasn't ferocious at first, okay? But she turned into this ferocious protector. Like, if you come into this house, guess what? If they didn't say you could come in, I will hurt you, maim you, if that's what I need to do in order to protect these people up in here. But if you made it inside the house and you look like you were received, well, Ladybug was happy to see you and basically was like, I'm glad you came to see me too. Well, one day, Ladybug was out and she hated the dog that lived a few doors down from us. When I say hated, it is not a strong word. Ladybug hated, okay? So we called her Lady. So Lady hated that dog because the dog would always come over to our house and use the bathroom. Well, one particular day, this dog was out without a leash, and it just so happened that my mom let Ladybug out. Ladybug got wind of that dog and started chasing that dog. She's chasing that dog so hard that dog, my dog was a pit bull, so she was a bit large. That other dog was a little tinier dog, like maybe a Cocker Spaniel size, not that type of dog, but that size. That dog was running with full extension. If I could actually read that dog's mind, or that dog can speak, it would be saying, please, mama, be at the door because I'm coming. And if you're not there with that door open, this dog is going to kill me. My dog was right behind that other little dog. What was happening? Protector mode was on. Like, no, not today, buddy. Not today. I have had enough. When it comes to attachment and what that means and looks like, in our child's eyes, when we are in protection mode, we are looking at the fact that, wait a minute, guys, I just lost my point, y'all. That is so sad. That's so sad. I'm going to gross them a little example. I have to watch that. All right. For real. No, seriously. When it comes to attachment and we're looking at these different styles, we want to be able to give and express love. I told you all I lost it. It's going to come back to me. But when we don't do that, we evidence insecure attachment. And when we are raising our mini-me's, we are showing them with secure attachment that I can provide intimacy, meaning connection, not sexual. It doesn't mean that, not always. Okay. It means that I can be intimate and close with another individual without feeling uncomfortable. Okay. People who grew up in an avoidant home, meaning that they didn't show love there, they are very uncomfortable with expressing love. I can't tell you how many times I'm speaking with a male client or a female client that didn't have that in their home. And they're like, you keep talking all these emotion words and I don't have a clue. And every time I talk to them, it's like, we're going to talk about emotions because that's what you are uncomfortable with. And that's what you need to become comfortable with. Not because that's what I want, but because you're telling me you want to fix your relationship or you want to be ready for the next relationship. So guess what? You have to learn this now. But also, you're a parent. You need to show this to your children, okay? So when we are looking at these attachment styles, we are identifying the fact that as a securely attached person, I am showing that I am comfortable with expressing love. And even though it is vulnerable, I'm okay with that. It also means, guess what? I can have a heated discussion with you and be totally pissed off with you as my partner or as my parent. But guess what? Because I know you are a person that is there for me and you listen to me and you hear me out, therefore I feel heard and understood. Well, guess what? I believe I'm being respected in this conversation. And when I calm down, we can come back, figure out what it is we need to discuss in order to come to mutual terms. Okay. So growing up in my household, as a younger kid with my mom, there was no back talk whatsoever. You just had to keep your mouth shut. And with her, yeah, you definitely want to do that. Otherwise, you feel the wrath, right? But with my dad, it was different. He was a counselor, okay? So with him, it was, well, why do you feel this way? And his point was, I need you to get comfortable expressing yourself because as a parent, I won't always be here and be able to speak up for you. But if I know you can speak up for yourself, you'll be fine. So he would allow me to exercise my voice. Okay. What did this teach me? It taught me how to feel heard and understood. Okay. And when we do that, we are exemplifying secure attachment because we are telling ourselves it's okay for me to communicate my thoughts and my feelings. And even though they may not be received, even though it might be met with contention, all right, it doesn't mean that it's the end of things, that the relationship is over just because we don't agree. But people with anxious or avoidant attachment, when conflict arises, unfortunately, they see it a different way. Someone who is anxious will see conflict like, oh my gosh, what did I do? I need to fix this. And in order to fix this, I have to get back in your good graces again, which means I need to communicate this in a particular way. Whereas an avoidant person will particularly say to themselves, I don't understand what's going on here. I don't know what happened and why it's happening. But what do I need to do in order to fix this for us to get back to where we were? All right. Now let's put that in a child's-like terminology. As kids, when something is wrong and they don't feel mommy or daddy's love, from the primary caregiver, what do? They're coming up to us. They have those tantrums and they're very emotional and they're crying. What do they want? They want us to soothe them and to regulate their emotions. Therefore, I'm here. Mama's here. It's okay. What's going on? Let's talk about it, right? With my 3-year-old great niece, when she's upset, she's a little handful, but when she's upset, I have to stop and ask, are you okay? Is everything all right? Now, fortunately, she has secure attachment. I'm able to see that clearly because she has that greatly with her parents, but that's what they have instilled in her as far as being available, responsive, and engaged with her, right? So when we are engaged with our children, they're coming up to us and they're talking and we're not saying, baby, go sit down, or not right now, baby. Now, I get it. We have those moments, right? We can't always be there, but it's how we communicate that, which would mean instead of saying, not right now, I don't have time for this right now. Go sit down. You always want something. We can't do that. We have to explain, right? When we explain, then it becomes, I'm busy right now working on such and such. I will be to you in a minute, okay? Is everything all right? Can you give mommy a few minutes? And a lot of people will say, oh, that's that new age parenting where we're talking to our kids. Yeah, it's new age. You know why? Because we did new research. And new research meant that we learned what works and what doesn't work. And I'm not saying that anyone who does not do that, that you're a bad parent. No. It just means that we possibly may need to pivot. Now, I'm not here to say anyone is a superhero parent and someone else is the villain parent. I'm not here to say that. What I am here to say, when it comes to parenting your mini-me, you want to instill the best love within them possible. And the way that we go about doing that, by researching what research has shown us, what works and what doesn't work. This isn't new. When I say research as far as new age parenting, new age is in the last 40, 50 years, okay? But how many of you know things that we do behind the scenes, it takes a while for it to become common knowledge, right? So think of it before television became a household thing for everybody. Now that we have a television in every room, there used to be, well, you can only have one TV per household because they were really expensive, or maybe only wealthy people had a TV, or maybe it was cell phones and not everyone had one. Now it's no big deal. Our 7-year-old has a telephone. What is my point? As things become more commonplace, they become more known. Thus, a lot of people are using it. So even though this research has been going on for over 50 years, it's becoming more known. And the more we know about something, the more we can do things with it, okay? So when we're parenting a mini-me and we're trying to build what we identify as secure attachment. Now, don't get me wrong. I know I identified 3 other types, which were disorganized, anxious, and avoidant. It would take too long to give you all a whole bunch of scenarios and things to work on if we focus on those things. So I'm going to do you like I tell my clients. We can sit here for hours and talk about all the things that are going wrong, or we can focus on what's going right and do more of that, right? Because this is too much that you could actually talk about with stuff that's not going well or things that we need to improve. But if we focus on the strengths and the things that we can do well, then we head in that direction a lot sooner, and then we get the best results from that a lot quicker, okay? So when we are building secure or unsecure attachment, I want you to think of that acronym R, meaning available, responsive, and engaged. If I'm available, I am emotionally available. I can talk to my child about their feelings. I'm giving them words to express emotion. I'm helping them to understand that that is a vocabulary that they also need to learn. I am also physically available. When they need me, I am there for them. And although I might not be able to be everywhere at all times, they know mommy or daddy is there for them. And nothing would prevent mommy or daddy from doing that because nothing is more important. Now, yes, parents have to work and other things come up. But if I know in the back of my mind, my parent really loves me and cares for me, then I know it's okay. So example, my father was a school counselor. So He always had to be at the schools. Guess what? I was a kid in school. And guess what? He couldn't always be there for me because his job required him to be there. But at no place and point did I ever figure that I came in last or second place to his job or, the people that he worked with. Why? Because he was available and responsive to me when I needed him. He was very engaged with me. So even though there may have been times where I needed him physically to be there, because I truly believed with all my heart that he loved me and would, I didn't take it as a slight if he was not. It just meant he couldn't be there in that point. So I want you to make it known and be clear that we can't always be every place at all times for our children. But if they know in their heart of hearts that you love them and you will be there for them when you can, then they're okay for the moments that you can't, because they're few and far in between. And they understand that other things are important too. It's how we communicate, right? So when it comes to secure attachment, it's all about the communication. What is the number one problem that we have with relationships as an adult? Communication. What is the number one thing we need to instill in our children when they're growing up? Communication. Why? Because we have to help them to see at the level in which they're able to learn. So that means we are communicating to them in the way that they can understand, meaning that, I am here for you. You do matter to me. Your voice is important. You do come first. And there are a number of phrases that I can give you. But when we don't communicate this, then as adults, as we are growing and we are building our attachment style, we see ourselves from those phrases, right? Meaning if I had an insecure form of attachment growing up and things did not go well, then guess what? I am now looking at myself as, wow, yeah, I don't come first. Yeah, I don't matter. Yeah, I can't get through to this person. No one is ever there for me when I need them, although I'm always there for them. These are messages we tell ourselves as we age, because these are the messages that we believe to be true when we were children. So a few things I want you to keep note of when you're raising your mini-me's. You have to communicate with them on their level. You don't have to explain all the intricacies to every problem or issue. You just need to communicate on their level so that they can feel heard, so they can feel understood, so they know you are available to them. They know if they come to you, you will respond to them, and they know that you will engage with them and not put them off to the side. Okay. And then you're just able to communicate in a way that they can understand. When we do this, we are showing them their importance, but we're also validating them and allowing them to see that things don't always go the way that we want. Things don't always go in our favor. But guess what? If I have someone that is communicating to me in a way that I can understand, then I can be understanding towards them. Okay. So how can we fix things if we don't have secure attachment? That's okay. Pivot. It's one of my favorite, I would say, episodes from the Friends. Ross was getting his couch and they were bringing it up the stairs and he's like, pivot, 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 right? Pivot means to turn, right? If it's not going the way that we need to turn. So I want you to know these are things that scream healthy attachment to a child. Remember, we already talked about communication. We have to explain some things. Again, we don't have to use full detail like we're talking to someone our own age, but we need to communicate. And if we are going to correct or discipline our child, now I'm not here to tell you I am team spanking or not team spanking. However you want to discipline your child, as long as it is not beating or abuse, that's you and what happens in you and your household. That's up to you and Jesus. That's up to you. Okay. Not here for that. What I am here for when it comes to correction or discipline, we have to communicate. So when we are communicating to our children why they're getting in trouble or why we are correcting them, if we fail to communicate it or we communicate in a way that is really harsh and domineering, like we're a warden of a prison, then we're not doing so in a secure attachment loving way. We just need to communicate why we're doing what we're doing, which is, hey, you're getting on punishment because you were goofing off in school. You got 3 Fs. So I'm not going to honor that and allow you to do what you want to do. You're going to be on punishment. You don't have to have a long drawn out conversation. You don't even have to explain yourself, but you do have to communicate for understanding purposes, because No matter who we are, we all want validation. You want validation. When you're talking to your parent or your significant other, you want validation too. And we have to give what it is that we want ourselves, okay? So when it comes to correction and discipline, it's the way we are communicating, and it is what we are actually saying. We actually have to say something and not just do it. We need to give them understanding about that. Now, another key point, you're going to recognize these from the 5 love languages. Quality time is essential. That goes back to that acronym R, being available. When you are available to your child, you're there for them. I love watching my nephew with his daughter. He'll get down on the floor, pull out toys, and they'll sit down and play. She'll say, Daddy, come play with me. Now, me and her great-grandmother will be sitting right there. She's not concerned about us. Why? She's not attached to us. Yes, she loves us. We have a bond with her, but it's not like an attachment bond with her parents, right? So he's sitting down with her and they're playing and she's just as happy as she can be. Why? Because quality time is being evidenced, which means she's learning Daddy is available to me, physically available as well as emotionally available. And guess what? When she gets corrected just earlier today, she snatched her little baby out my hand and was like, no, this is mine. But no, Dad came right up to her and said, no, give that back. And let me explain to you why you have to give that back. That is not how you communicate when you want something. Even though it's yours, you ask nicely. You don't snatch things from people. That is not what you do. She got quiet. She listened. And then she came right up in front of me. Auntie Sadie, because that's what she calls me. Auntie Sadie, can I have my baby? And I said, sure. And I picked up her little kitty and I started playing with the little kitty. Well, guess what happened? Because I know what I'm doing behind the scenes. She wanted to play with Kitty too. But guess what we did? We played with baby and Kitty, right? What were we doing? Instilling secure attachment, showing through communication, showing through quality time, okay? And she even was corrected in that moment, not disciplined, but she was corrected. But she fell in line. Why? Because she understood, because Daddy explained to her, okay? You also need to affirm your child. Words of affirmation. It is one of the 5 love languages. And as adults, we love that. Now, that's kind of twofold, okay? Let me be honest. Not to really I don't know what's the right verbiage to say, but not to kind of make it seem like I'm trying to, sugarcoat things for me. But to give you an example how it comes 2 ways. My love language is words of affirmation. I just absolutely enjoy when someone says that they enjoy me. Now, I grew up in a household where my daddy always affirmed me. I'm accustomed to that. I've never dated someone who did not affirm me. And they actually mean it, not just doing it just to be doing it, but they mean it, right? I date emotional people that are very in tune with their emotions. I'm okay with that because I'm a counselor. I need you to be okay expressing your emotions. Why? Because both of us couldn't be jacked up. I used to be jacked up in the past. Now I'm pretty good. All right. Life has taught me, hey, develop, earn, secure attachment. So because of that, I can do that. But that was the way that I learned words of affirmation, was because it was instilled in me. Now, some people, that becomes their primary love language. Why? Because they did not get it. And so it is a void. It's like a hole that needs to be, filled, that we keep shoveling and shoveling and shoveling and it's never filled. There we have to be careful because that's a sign of anxious attachment. Most cases, someone who's anxiously attached, you cannot generally soothe them very easily. It takes a while. It is an insatiable desire because it is a hole. It is a void that has to be filled. So we have to be very careful. Avoidant children who grow up to be avoidant adults, they learn to be very self-sufficient. Anxious children who grow up to be anxious adults, they learn to be dependent because they are looking for someone else to validate them. And they have to learn that validation comes from within. Now, I'm not saying that avoidants are better. They're good at validation and it's internal. However, it's in a grandiose way. They blow themselves up a little bit too much. Trust me, I came from that side of life and it's not something that you should do. You have to get humble. I always tell Jesus, smack me down real quick, privately, before I get out there in the public making a fool of myself. So we just have to be careful when it comes to affirmation. There's nothing wrong with it. We do have to instill that in our children, but we want to do so in a way that we're recognizing that this is a healthy sign of secure attachment because we are affirming them, therefore we are validating them. And everyone needs to be validated. But in this manner, it shows a healthy way to do that. So as adults, when someone is affirming me, I hear that as comfort because I am accustomed to this. Therefore, I know when there's an error. So if you do something all the time and that's all you hear all the time, then you know when it's out of place, right? If I know there are certain sounds in my car, and then all of a sudden I hear a new sound, wait a minute, something's wrong, because that's not how it normally sounds, right? Same thing with affirmation. If I'm accustomed to healthy affirmation and it's true and it's sincere, then when someone comes to me trying to gaslight me, I know the difference. Why? Because I've had so much experience in this other version that I know a fake version when it comes along. Okay. But children need affirmation, and children also need physical touch. All right. Get clear. No gutter thinking here. Okay. Because as adults, we think love language, physical touch means sex. No, physical touch as a love language really and truly means I am soothed when someone uses their hand to caress my back or my shoulder or hug me or hold my hand. It is a soothing mechanism. Here's how I know you'll know what I'm talking about. Think of any crying baby. There is not one baby on this planet that you can go up to a crib or go up to the baby, it's okay, and just look at them and say that over and over again. It's okay. You're going to be okay. You all right, baby. Doesn't work like that. You have to pick that baby up, put that baby over your shoulder or rock that baby, and then you can say, it's okay. Mama's here. It's all right. The words are soothing, but through physical touch, that child learns that I am soothed, I am calmed, I am relaxed when someone touches me. It is the physical touch that is soothing. So as an adult, when someone rubs your back or your shoulder or hugs you or holds your hand, it is the calming mechanism that communicates love to you. Okay, so children do need physical touch. They need that closeness and that connection because it is emotional intimacy that they are learning. Okay. Now, sure, you can definitely go on with the other love languages with acts of service and gifts. That's a little bit too intricate for children right now because we're trying to get you to understand the main elements. And for the main elements, when we're looking at secure attachment with children and implementing that and instilling that in them, we are really looking at those other love languages and the other things as far as the acronym are, okay? Meaning being available, responsive, engaged. What does that all mean? It means that we are instilling in them what we identify as secure responding behaviors. In other words, healthy ways to communicate, show love, express love, and even conflict. There are healthy ways to do that. And in a secure responding behavior, I learned that through the good time and the bad time, someone can communicate healthily to me, and I don't see it as a form of rejection. I don't see it as a form of abandonment. Those that are anxious see conflict as anxiousness or, not anxiousness, as rebellion or abandonment. Whereas someone who is avoiding attachment has pretty much learned, oh, okay, you can't trust people. Yeah, I'm not trusting you, right? They have hard time and difficulties trusting others because they have learned that in the past they have been disappointed when they have trusted others. So at the end of the day, I want you to think of these last 2 points, okay? And when I say these last 2 points, I want you to think of these particular questions. When it comes to identifying love with a child, you're trying to instill in them secure or earn secure attachment. And you want to really preempt the question on whether or not they believe they are worthy of love, because that's what we all tend to do. That's a form of an internal working model. It is how I am processing, how I give and receive love. And so with this internal working model, I am interpreting whether or not I am capable of giving love or whether I'm capable of receiving love. People with an anxious attachment as children, they grew up saying to themselves, oh, well, I don't know if I'm worthy of love, or I don't know if I'm capable of giving love as well as capable of gaining support in times of stress. Why do they ask this question? Because They learn inconsistency. So when they gave love, they're like, wait a minute, I gave you love on Tuesday. Why is it Wednesday? You don't have any love for me, though. I don't understand. I gave it to you. So they then ask themselves the question, well, am I really worthy of love? Am I really capable of giving love? Am I capable of giving support to others in times of stress? Because I've tried that and they don't reciprocate that back to me. So we can preempt that in childhood by simply showing and telling a child, you're worthy of love simply because you exist. I will love you no more or no less if you've done something, because of who you are is why I love you, not because of what you do or what you say or what you give or what you provide. It's your existence. There is nothing my little 3-year-old great niece can do to make me love her more or any less. I love her simply because she is her cute little adorable self, because of who she is. And I am learning her every day. And as I learn her, I love her more and more. But does she do things to upset me? Yes, but she's a 3-year-old. So we let certain things slide because she does not know better. But that doesn't mean I will love her any less. So I'm going to be consistent in showing her, yes, you are worthy of love. Yes, you are capable of giving love, because I'm going to receive the love that you give Auntie when you come and hug her or give her a kiss. When it comes to whether or not she's able to support in times of stress, when she says, I want to help, well, thank you for providing a service and helping someone else, and you see that there are things going on that you can assist with. You have to show them and express that to them. But that is the question that is going in that person's head. And that person who develops that type of question, they grow up questioning themselves. And those are individuals who grow up to have anxious attachment. Okay. Now, when it comes to someone who's avoidant, well, there's a difference. They identify with questioning others. Now, an avoidant person loves themselves strongly. They don't have any self-esteem issues, but they question other people. An anxious person, they value other people very highly. They esteem them and regard them very highly. However, they do not do the same for themselves. And that is because they question their capability of being there for others, loving others, as well as whether or not they are worthy of love. Now, for those that have avoidant attachment, then it's a little bit different. What they are saying is, wait a minute, are other people willing to help me when I have a need? Because it doesn't seem like they are. It seems like I'm there for you, but you're never there for me. These are people who grow up to be the rock. These are individuals who grow up to be people who, how can I explain this? They grow up to be people who are always there for other people. They are emotionally supportive and strong. They might be called cold or harsh. That's because they learned to be the strong one, because guess what? I learned to do that in childhood because we didn't show feelings. So therefore, if I don't show feelings, then I don't show that vulnerable, sensitive side. But they also ask this question to themselves: are other people reliable and trustworthy? Because it seems like I'm there for them, but they're not there for me. Why are they not there? Great question. If you never open up yourself emotionally, then how can they be there? There's no way that they can. And so when you test them, they don't even know it's a test, and they fail. Why do they fail? They fail simply because you're not being honest nor vulnerable. Okay. So those are questions that anxious children will have, as well as avoidant children will have. Secure children will not have those questions. Now, you may say, you know what, Dr. Sadia, you identified a fourth category, disorganized and fearful attachment. I didn't hear you talk about that. Here's why. When you think of that category, remember that was the one that someone who was abused, there was maltreatment, neglect, or trauma. They developed disorganized or fearful attachment. But it is the combination of both anxious and avoidant. That means you'll see signs and symptoms of anxious issues as well as avoidant issues, okay? All right, guys, so there you have it. That's everything. When it comes to anxious and avoidant attachment, when you see a combination or you see symptoms from both, it's a strong possibility that that person has disorganized or fearful attachment, because they evidence both signs of having difficulties expressing love, thus avoidance, or not really knowing how much to give, or feeling anxiety or anxiousness because of pending feelings of rejection or abandonment. Okay, that's anxious. All right, so remember I was telling you about my little ladybug and how she was chasing after that dog. I knew the Lord would bring it back to me. All right. I want you to remember the acronym IOU, right? I think we all know what an IOU is in general terms, but I want you to think of it like an acronym. And in this acronym, remember my dog Ladybug, she was running. She was going after that dog. She was like, oh my goodness, I am about to tear you up today, buddy. But it just so happened that dog's mommy was at the door with the door open. It wasn't like the dog was, I don't know, growling or, barking on the way, I don't think. But when that dog came to the door, went right on in the house and closed it right before Ladybug could get it in, right? Because then my mom was after her like, come back here, girl, come back here. Because she was out for kill. She was out for blood, y'all. So why am I bringing that up? The acronym IOU. Let's focus not on Ladybug because that's what I was doing and I forgot my point when I should have been focusing on the other dog. So here's the thing when it comes to the acronym IOU. The first part, the I want you to look at it as I need you, okay? So think of a baby. When babies are in their cribs and they're crying, they're asking for proximity. They want you to be there. Now, sure, they could be hungry. They could be wet. But in most cases, a baby would just want you to be there. That means they need you to soothe them. That's like that dog. That dog was like, Mama, I need you to be at that door. I need you to be there because when I get there, I'm going in. And I need you to have that door open so nothing happens to me. When a child is proximity seeking and they need you to be there, that's that availability, then we have to actually be there for them, or at the very least explain why we cannot, okay? Now, when we think of the O in the acronym, remember that little dog was pumping all brakes in order to get to that door, and that dog needed that door open so that when they came, they could do one leap and they're inside the house, okay? When we open the door, the O part of this acronym, when we open the door to someone, we're inviting them in. We're saying, hey, I am a secure base for you. You can come here and you can feel safe. You can feel secure because I am a secure base for you. That dog knew if my mommy was at the door and that door is open, I'm safe inside. It is secure for me inside. It is not secure out here with a ladybug chasing me, but it is secure when I make it on the other side of that door, okay? And then the U part of the acronym, understanding, okay? Now, when we have understanding, we are a safe haven. We are requesting this understanding because I'm talking to you. I'm trying to understand this. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to connect the dots. I dated this guy one time, and we were having a discussion, and it was like conflict. It wasn't like yelling or anything like that, but it was definitely conflict. I was ticked off. And he stopped and was like, wait a minute, babe. I'm just trying to connect the dots. That's all. I'm just trying to connect the dots. I had to bust out laughing because it was so funny. And I'm like, oh, my little boo is really just trying to get me and I'm just being too harsh. Okay, let me dial it back a bit, right? He was requesting understanding. And when we are requesting understanding is the U part of that acronym, then that means we're saying, I want to be a safe haven for you. I want you to come into this space and feel that you can open up and express to me, and it is safe to do so, that you won't feel like you'll be criticized or ridiculed, or I'll bring this up later against you, okay? So that acronym IOU, I need you, meaning I am close by, proximity seeking. I want you to be here for me. And remember, this is as a child. As adults, it changes. It's no longer proximity, but it's emotional, okay? Even though children need both, most of the times as younger, they need proximity and closeness more so than they need that emotion from you. They'll still need both, but it'll just flip-flop. Whereas the primary initially will be proximity seeking, okay? So that first part is I need you. And the second part is open the door. Open the door. I want you to be in the position where you know I am a secure base, that I am safe, okay? Now you may say, wait a minute, what's the difference between a secure base and a safe haven? When we open the door, remember that dog's mom was at the door? He knew when I go through this door, I am secure inside. My mommy provides a secure base for me away from Ladybug. So when we open the door for someone else, think of your arms wide open for a hug and you're like, come on in. The door is open. It's safe in here, okay? Whereas when we are a safe haven to someone, then we're saying, hey, I need you to be a safe space for me, right? If I'm playing baseball and I'm going through all those bases and I just hit the ball and I'm running to first base and second base and I'm turning third, I'm looking to run home. I know that this is going to be a safe space for me, okay? And I am providing one for you, okay? So it's looking at a duplicity there, being that for someone and also you being that for someone as well as them being that for you. And that's your IOU. Okay, so I'm coming in, come on in. I need you here for me, and then open up the door. I need you to open up this door so that in doing so, I can be secure when I get inside. And then the last part, hey, look, I need your understanding. Will you help me? I need you to help me to understand you. Okay. All right. So that's it, guys. That's it for today's show. That was kind of a long one, but I thought that was important. We're raising these beautiful blessings that are growing up to be our future. We want to instill the love of Christ with them, and that will be secure attachment. That is going to provide a healthy foundation for them to have healthy, loving relationships, be able to connect with people that are also healthy, and without even knowing, they will possibly dismiss people that are not healthy because they see those as toxicity signs or unhealthy signs or signs that it is not safe to be there or to love that individual. Doesn't mean they're not understanding, just means that this isn't safe. This isn't what I know. This isn't what is comfortable or known to me, okay? And that's what happens when we look at attachment with our mini-me's, okay? So that's it for today's episode. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope this can plant a deposit or a seed in you that can help you with your child, but also help you to understand why you have had the relationship with your primary caregiver. It's not because they didn't love you per se. It is simply because of their attachment style. And unfortunately, maybe not knowing exactly what to do or how to fix it, because what is uncomfortable or unknown to me, I don't know exactly how to fix or manage that. And generally, that changes as we get older with time. I know that's what happened with my mom. Remember I told you she wasn't as loving when I was younger? Now she's totally different, right? We grow, and hopefully with wisdom, and as we age, we learn to change these things. All right. If you really want to learn more about attachment, then I want you to check out my book. I go into great detail about that throughout the book, and it's going to help you not just learn about attachment, but there are exercises, workbook activities at the end of each chapter that will definitely help you in building secure responding behaviors. Now, you can get that book on Amazon. You can click the show notes here on this episode, or you can go to the erosmeetsagape.com website, click the book tab and click the picture, and it will take you directly over to Amazon for the book. Now, before I close out, I want to mention this because I tend to forget, and I want you all to know about it. So if you want to learn secure responding behaviors, I give self-love tips, and I send that in a weekly text message. And I send that generally, just depends on the day, on what the Lord gives me. So, but you'll definitely receive it every week. But text the word no dessert and have no spaces in there, guys. So it's just NODESSERT. And I want you to text no dessert to the following number, 877-7LOVE-07. Okay. Now, if you want information on relationships and, marriage, and you want to, get tips, tools, and resources to kind of head over in increasing emotional connection, then I want you to text the following word, date night, to that same number. And date night is spelled differently. It's spelled DATENITE. Okay. And you're going to text that to the same number, 877-7LOVE-07. All right. So singles, text the word no dessert, and you're going to text that to 877-7LOVE-07. And people in a relationship or married who want relationship information, you're going to text the word date night, DATENITE, to the same number, 877-7LOVE-07. All right. Okay, guys, you know how I like to close out the show. Don't forget to rate and review us wherever you have downloaded the show. We are growing. We had over 650 downloads last month. Awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for loving the show and the content. Greatly appreciate you. And also, rate and review us. We'd like to hear from you. This is our last year. We want to make certain that we're giving you what it is that you want and need as far as information on relationships. So don't forget to rate and review us wherever you downloaded the show. Of course, you can follow us on all social media platforms, especially Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat at Eros Meets Agape. All right. That's it for me this time, guys. Till next time, I'm your host, Dr. Sadia, helping you to give and receive the love you both want and need. Bye-bye.